This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. on TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. And yes, you are in touch with the compensatory concept. You can call it the concept, but here we are. And I'm your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. Yes, we are broadcasting live on Facebook.com/TalkTainment. That's Facebook.com/TalkTainment. And we are on, and you can see me. You won't be able to see Mr. Fuller, but you will be able to see me and see how the show operates. So, good. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, MrBobby@gmail.com. Chances are your email today will not be read since I am stacked up with emails, but we will get to it as soon as the rotation allows us to. We're speaking with Mr. Neely Fuller. He is live from Washington, D.C. He's ready to answer your questions, take your calls, so you can get ready to do that. And he's the author of this book that I'm holding up right now, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And all it is a contemporary, or rather compensatory counter-racist code guide. And this is the book you see here is the revised, expanded edition. And it's a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And later on in the show, we will have Mr. Fuller go into detail about information on how you can get this book, and also this book right here, this word guide. He'll explain all that to you, and you need that to be able to further your quest for justice. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and as we usually say, how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay. So you're learning, and we're on Facebook.com/TalkTainment. Here we are. Here we go. Today we're going to open up with the seventh area of people activity in the system of racism and white supremacy. It's called religion, and we're going to start on page 261 of the revised expanded edition. This book right here, if I'm showing it on the screen, revised expanded edition. Page 261 starts with religion, the seventh area. Mr. Fuller, while we're here, well, wait a minute, we have a phone call? Okay, we'll do that before we go in here. Get that lined up here. Okay. Caller, you're on line number one. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. How you guys feeling this morning?
Good, sir.
This is Brother Muko from Baltimore, where we hold the compensatory constructive action meetings. The St. Drive, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Saturday under the dome. Anyone here listening can come and join us. My question for Mr. Fuller today is, Mr. Fuller, for my care unit in Baltimore, religion is a really, really confusing topic. Can you please explain kind of quickly how we only have one religion that's in charge of all of them, and that's the religion of white supremacy?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Well, according to logic, well, first of all, you try to define what religion is. I came up with what I call a compensatory definition. A religion is a strong belief backed up by action. You have to have the two. You have to believe in something very strongly, and you have to act on what you say that you believe in. If you don't have the two together, you don't have the religion. Belief plus action. A very strong belief plus strong action to that proves your belief. And so some years ago I looked at the different religions. I mean, the major ones, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Confucianism, Buddhism, and some of the other, what most people would call, or some scholars call, minor religions. You have all kinds of tribal religions and whatnot among people scattered throughout the planet. And then, using that definition, I say, okay, well, I'll see what are the ingredients that go into a religion. If a person is a Christian, what does a Christian do that's different from what everybody else does who's not a Christian? What does a person who believes in Judaism, what does that person do that's different from what a Christian does or what a Muslim does? And so I looked at these different religions, and so then I thought of, well, can you say that a strong belief backed up by action, would that apply to something that people would consider to be evil too? If it's a strong belief backed up by action? And the answer was yes, logically speaking. So therefore I came to the conclusion that white supremacy is a religion. It's a strong belief backed up by action. So in all 9 areas of activity, what I looked at it and examined what I call the system of white supremacy and compared it with other systems like Christianity, Judaism, and what a little bit that I could understand about all the other religions. And I came to the conclusion that the religion of white supremacy, the system of white supremacy, is the strongest religion. Why? Because the people do not cut corners, ever, on what they believe in. I mean, it's very consistent.
Due to the evidence, right, Mr. Fuller?
Hello?
Yeah, again, I said that's due to the evidence, right?
Yes, due to the evidence. And economics, is the system of white supremacy strong? Do they have a lot of economic muscle, meaning the use of time and energy, and the vehicle that we call money? Do the white supremacists dominate that? And I looked at some of the Christian churches, and I said, well, the Christians do not have money called Christian money.
True.
I mean, when in the Christian churches, what I'm somewhat familiar with, I noticed that preachers will preach in the Christian church, and then they will pass a plate around, and then from, among the people who are there listening, and people will put money in the plate, and the pictures of the people who are on the money are not what you might call religious leaders as such, but some of them are slave owners based on race.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, that same money that's going into a Christian plate. And I'm saying, I don't see any pictures of Moses, or I don't see any pictures of David. I don't see any pictures of Jesus on any of this money.
Right.
I see pictures of slave owners in a Christian church. But, and then the pastor will say, I mean, hey, put the money in the plate. This is very important in supporting what we are doing. So, so you look at that for what it's worth, and you can come to your own conclusions and whatnot, which is what the compensatory code says that you should do. But I concluded that the strongest religion among the people of this planet called Earth is the system of white supremacy. All other religions come in second, third, fourth best, whatever order you want to put it. But the strongest religion are the people who believe in mistreating people based on color. And that is spread all over the planet and has more muscle than all of the other religions combined.
Put together.
That's the conclusion I've come to.
Okay.
Unless somebody
I
can
agree,
show me
Mr.
something
Fuller.
else.
Due to the evidence, I agree.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. We continue in our discussion for 2 hours. And by the way, we are on Facebook.com/Talktainment. And I understand that now you can not only see us, but you can also hear us on Facebook. That's important. You can see and hear us on Facebook.com/Talktainment. So get on there and check us out. Well, you can check me out because Mr. Fuller is in D.C., Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. And you won't be able to see him, but you will be able to hear him now, and we will be able to hear you. So we are moving on. That is Facebook.com/Talktainment. Okay, Mr. Fuller, let's see here. Let's do this. Nope, went off of my screen here. Let me get my screen back. One of the Gmailers wrote a question here. And here was the question. It says, my question for you, Mr. Fuller, is in regard to the seventh area of activity, religion. At the top of page 263 of the expanded edition, that's 263 of the expanded edition, Mr. Fuller writes, quote, when someone asks you if you believe in God, etc., answer by saying, and then he goes on to say, only God knows, and only God is qualified to tell, end of quote. He says, now, the question is, by responding in this manner, does this automatically represent to the person asking the question that the person answering actually believes in a God? Mr. Fuller?
It could be. It could be. That's up to the person. That's a compensatory answer that I think is kind of universal, because different people got their ideas about what God is. There are some religions that say that there are several gods, and then there are some religions that say, no, it's not in several gods, it's one God. And people fight about this. In fact, they go to war, they gear up. Even as we speak right now, there are people who are killing each other. About what? About how do you go about recognizing God? And how do you go about serving God? And what are the methods? And what are the signs and symbols and whatnot that you're supposed to pay attention to, and the ones you're supposed to disregard? So when someone asks you if you believe in God, I think that's a reasonable compensatory answer, because only God knows, and only God is qualified to tell, really. I mean, because the person that you ask may not tell the truth. See what I mean? You ask a person, do you believe in God? And the person says, yes, because it's convenient to do so. They say, what God do you believe in? And then you say, well, whatever God you want me to believe in. I mean, I'm trying to get along with you. Since you're asking the question, and since God is not asking the question, you're asking the question. So it might be all about you and not about God. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, in response to my answer, that you may want to help me, you may want to hurt me. So I have to guess about that. So you have religious conflicts all over the world right now as we speak. People slaughtering babies and whatnot, dropping bombs, where people are trying to flee the bombs and really not trying to hurt anybody, just trying to get out of the way of the destruction. All kind of buildings falling down. About what? About religion. I mean, people gearing up, getting guns and whatnot. I mean, setting off bombs, blowing up cars. About what? About, hey, what is the best way to pay attention to what God wants us to do? What's the best way? And there's lots of disagreement. Lots of disagreement in all of the major religions, according to what? The evidence.
According to the evidence. Okay. Talktainmentradio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics. And here are several shows that I'd like to share with you. One is called The Voice of Deliverance. Another one is called New Money. And another one is called Super Cool. Now, all you have to do is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, and then you click on programs for the scheduled times. And all this is exclusive to TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. I'm Mr. Bobby, the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Our subject today, our topic today, is the seventh area of people activity, which is religion. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, you can do so by calling 1-877-932-9766. You can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Or you can do this. If you want to look at us and hear the show, you can by going to facebook.com/talktainment. That's facebook.com/talktainment. And I've been told that you can see and hear us. So that'd be a good thing for you. All that from radio the way it should be heard. Go to the Gmails here. Here's a question for you, Mr. Fuller. It's from Mr. Jordan. He says this. Mr. Fuller, when you started speaking of codification to black people, how was the Jordan response? Was it overwhelmingly positive or overwhelmingly negative? What did you learn from this experience, and was it discouraging at all? How did you, Mr. Fuller, know to keep going?
Oh, because of the compensatory logic. Compensatory means making up for what's missing. When I looked around at all the things that I could be doing, and I figured, well, the greatest force that has impact on my comings and goings is the system of white supremacy. So it's like being in prison, which I always say the system of white supremacy is. And if you find that you are born in a prison, then you are going to be preoccupied with things that go on in the prison. There's no way to escape it. So under compensatory logic, it means you have to deal with things that you can't escape. I mean, and so I couldn't escape from a system that I was born in, and I looked and saw that the system dominates everything that people do all over the entire planet. The system of white supremacy. That's the prison that I was born in. So therefore, I didn't have any options anyway. And to try to run away from it is not logical. Because I found out that there was no place to run. Absolutely no place. You have to be on the planet. So it's like being in that Roman Colosseum and being chased by the lions. And you find out that there's no exit. So at some point, before you get too weary, you got to turn around and face that lion.
Right. Okay.
You got to fight the lion. I mean, you don't have an option.
You don't have an option. Okay. All right, now, let's go here. Let's go to the book. We're going to start on page 261 of the Revised Expanded Edition. This book right here, for those of you who are viewing on the screen via facebook.com/talktainment. There we go. All right, now, in the middle of the page, Mr. Fuller, you wrote this, and I'm going to read this, and I'm going to have you comment on this. You said, according to the compensatory counter-racist logic, quote, religion, end of quote, means the sum total of everything that a person thinks and everything that he or she plus everything that he or she does. A, quote, religion, end of quote, includes all parts of a person's existence, each minute of each day, even if those parts, and those are in quotations, end of quote, are never put into words, they are still a part of a person's religion if that person willfully and deliberately speaks and acts according to those parts. Religion is not, and this is important, you had it quotation, separate, end of quote, from existence, nor is it separate, again in quotes, from any part, and that's in quotes, of existence. Could you explain that?
What page are you reading from?
Page 261.
Right, well, yes. Your religion, like I said before, religion is a combination of what? Combination of your thoughts, your speech, your actions, whatever you think, whatever you speak, whatever you do, that is your religion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you say, well, you know, also, well, there's something else there. I mean, you know, it's something like faith or something like spirit, but spirit still dictates how you think, how you speak, and how you act.
Mm-hmm.
And so, therefore, that's your religion. Whatever you're doing at the time that you are doing it, and you are doing it not under coercion, all right, that's your religion. Thought, speech, and action.
Okay.
So anything that you willfully do is your religion.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're doing it.
Okay. Then why is it, and I'm just asking, why is it that when you say that so-and-so is religious or Neely Fuller is religious, it seems to have a connotation of church or a God or a congregation? Why is it like that? Is that deliberately, are we deliberately programmed for that, or why is that?
Well, it could be. It could be. I mean, those are excellent questions. See, this is how you get to the truth of the matter, by asking why. Very important question in the English language. That word why, W-H-Y. So you just ask the person who is doing it. See, the best way to handle religion without getting into a long, drawn-out argument is to ask the person questions about his or her religion. That's the best way. Don't try to tell a person what their religion is. Ask the person questions about his or her religion. You know, what is the name of your religion? What does your religion require you to do in all areas of activity? Those are the three basic questions. Mm-hmm. What is the name of your religion? That's question one. Question two, what does your religion require you to do in all of the areas of activity?
Mm-hmm.
Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, other people's religions, sex, and war. Most religions have rules. So you just want to know if a person says, you know, go around saying that they're very religious, that they have a strong religion, ask that person, what does their religion require them to do? After you get the name of the religion. You want the name first. Then you want all of the requirements of the religion.
Okay.
Then you want that third question. What does your religion, sir or ma'am, require you to do when you interact with me?
Okay.
Don't go any further than that.
Okay.
That way you do what? You reduce or eliminate religious arguments.
Okay.
Because, see, a lot of people just argue in a circle about religion, on and on and on and on and on. That breaks that out right quick.
Okay.
That's the compensatory way to go about doing that.
Okay.
What is the name of your religion? What does your religion require you to do? And what does your religion require you to do when you interact with me?
Okay.
That's all I need to know about your religion ever.
Okay. 1-877-932-9766 is the number you can call to get in contact with today's program. Our topic is religion, the seventh area of people activity. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY at gmail.com. And you can also view and listen to the program on Facebook.com/Talktainment. That's Facebook.com/Talktainment. So, Mr. Fuller, if somebody came up to you and asked you if you were religious, what would you say? How would you answer them? Or if anybody, well, okay, I'm asking you, how would you describe yourself in terms of religion? How would Neely Fuller say that or answer that question?
I would answer the question, religious about what? All right? In other words, I have a strong belief, you know, and I act on what? For one thing, I am a prisoner of war. So what my actions are, does not reflect how I would do it if I wasn't a prisoner of war. But since I am a prisoner of war, I don't really know what my religion is, except I call it eclectic pluralism.
What is that?
That's described in the textbook itself. Eclectic pluralism means I'm still trying to learn.
Okay, still learning. Okay, I got you.
I'm still trying to learn what the real religion is, since everybody says, who is religious, says they have the real religion. So if everybody is saying that they have the real religion, and they say that the religion is different from somebody else's religion, then what is the real religion if you are a person who is trying to be religious and you're trying to find out what the real religion is? So I say that I'm still trying to find out, because people are killing each other about what the real religion is. And I don't want to get into another argument or another fight and add to that chaos. I'm just trying to stand there and find out from somebody who really knows what the real religion is. And what do I do to prove that that's the real religion?
Okay.
What am I supposed to do? And I have to ask everybody of every religion this.
Okay.
So I say, that's why I always say, I'm still learning.
Yeah, I got that part, that you're still learning. So would it be safe to say that you believe and practice in the religion of Neely Fuller, Jr.?
No, I believe, I don't have a strong belief backed up by action, because the white supremacists teach me a whole bunch of different things. And so the only thing I know is that I'm drifting. If you're asking, what is the name of my religion, I say eclectic pluralism. I had to give it that title. That's a compensatory
title. Mm-hmm.
Right. Meaning what? I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to find my way. I'm trying to find out where the real religion is.
Still learning.
Because everybody that I talk to about religion, who has a religion, says that they have the real religion. And sometimes they'll say all other religions are false. I heard a priest once say that you can't get into heaven if you're not Catholic.
Oh,
I was told that many years ago, back in the 1950s. So you can forget about going to heaven if you're not Catholic. Just forget about it. You're just wasting your time.
He said that to you?
Said that directly.
Wow.
Because, and I was kind of, that's the first time I'd ever heard that. Now, maybe that priest was out of line, because maybe there are other priests who will say, Catholic priests who will say, no, you never tell nobody that. But that's what that priest told me.
Wow. Yeah.
So then I found out just from that experience that sometimes even people of the same religion don't agree.
Don't agree, yeah.
All right?
Wow. Anyway, we may have to revisit that. Talktainmentradio.com. We go where you go, and you can check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available, and you can simply download the Talktainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to stay right there, because we're going to have more of your questions. I got them right here now on my new phone. Thank you, Donnice, my daughter. I got it on my new phone, so we're going to be able to answer that, more of your phone calls. And then you can also look at us and listen to us live by going to facebook.com/Talktainment. That's right. Facebook.com/Talktainment, and you'll see us. All that and more coming up next on Talktainmentradio.com. Alrighty, Talktainmentradio.com. We go where you go. Download the Talktainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And a couple of things. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, you can do so by calling 1-877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. And you can do this. How about this? Talktainment Radio is now, or rather Talktainment is now on Facebook TV. All you have to do is facebook.com/Talktainment. You can now hear and see the 2-hour program, The Compensatory Concept, with Mr. Neely Fuller and me, the co-host, Mr. Bobby. And all you have to do, again, is to go to facebook.com/Talktainment. And while you're there, guess what? There's a like button there. Like us on Facebook, and we will record I'll read your comments. A special shout out to 2 people who have already done that. Sherry Walker and Gregory Dixon hit us up on the like page on Facebook, so thank you, and we'll continue to do that. All right, that's facebook.com/Talktainment, and you get to see and hear the program and see and hear me, and you can hear Mr. Fuller. Okay, Mr. Fuller, question from Black Magic. He says this, Mr. Fuller, the white supremacists are the most powerful people, or you said the white supremacists are the most powerful people in the world. Not true, Mr. Fuller. Real power does not lie in being evil. If they were so powerful, why would they need to rig the system in their favor? If they were really powerful, then they would be on top without any advantages. They are the least powerful, so they pretend that we are the very thing that they are. Still learning. Black Magic. Could you care to comment, Mr. Fuller?
Well, that's an opinion, and I didn't quite understand the opinion. Was the person saying that the white supremacists are not the most powerful people?
Yes, Black Magic was saying that in his opinion, that white people, white supremacists, are not the most powerful people in the world. If they were, then they wouldn't need to have advantages slanted toward their way. He said that they are pretenders that they are the most powerful
that
people.
The white supremacists are pretending that they are supreme.
Yes.
And that they are really not supreme.
Exactly. That's what he's saying. Yes.
So that means that somebody else, I guess, is supreme. I would have to ask that question. I mean, that's the best I could do.
Mm-hmm.
If the white, what I have observed is the white supremacists, when it comes to non-white people, tell non-white people what to do, and it's not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm missing something, and a person can educate me by showing me some evidence of what I've missed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it means that really everything that I have written was based on the premise that the white supremacists tell non-white people what to do, and the non-white people do it. That's what supreme means. And that's all the evidence that I have seen. I haven't seen it any other way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe there's information that I'm not aware of, that there are some non-white people, that the white supremacists are not supreme over, and, that I don't know where the pretense is. That pretense is pretty effective, if it is, but that's up for everybody in the audience to come to their own conclusion about what the gentleman is saying. I can't refute it. I can't say that's not true. But I haven't seen any evidence where what I've been saying, the white supremacists are the strongest, most powerful, smartest people in the world when it comes to non-white people in all areas of activity, because they tell non-white people what to do. And all the evidence that I have seen is that non-white people do it. They complain about it. They gripe about it. The white supremacists don't beg non-white people to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Now,
they demand what they do?
They demand it.
What I do as a non-white person, if I want anything in economics, in education, in entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, I have to answer to the white supremacists. I've never been in a position when I didn't have to do that.
Okay.
So I'm missing something.
All right. Now, is your opinion, before we take this phone call, is that based on counter-racist logic?
Well, that's what I'm basing on. That's what I have written. I've spent my whole years writing that white supremacists white supremacy is a fact. That's the truth. And if that's not the truth, then what is the truth?
Okay.
And I have spent all of this time, and I'm spending all this time this morning, talking about something that's simply not true.
Mm-hmm. So the evidence that you've gathered speaks to that then?
Yes, all the evidence that I've got has spoken to that. Now, if somebody shows me where my analysis is incorrect, that the white supremacists are not, telling non-white people what to do and the non-white people are doing it, then I just want to know, show me some instances where this is going on.
Okay.
Because I want to be there.
You want to be there. Okay.
Oh, yes, that's the whole point, to be there.
Okay. Let's take a phone call. Line number one? Okay, line number one, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, I would start off with a compensatory action meeting, 2800 St. Louis Drive, Baltimore, Maryland. Compensatory action meeting, 2800 St. Louis Drive, Baltimore, Maryland. Like I said, I'll never disagree. I critique everything Mr. Fuller say. I always look for what's wrong in what anybody tells me. I always critique it very strongly, and I don't find any issue with anything. And when I study it, I always come to find out that I find it to be correct when I study anything he's written. I read on. But I just want to say to all of the people out here that are creating compensatory constructive action, keep your head up. Yes, we are at war. This is a war. Stay strong. I know you may feel down, weak, and alone or whatever, but, you just got to keep on doing what you're doing. It's simple. It's not really that complicated if you open your eyes to what's going on. It's really simple, and it's just a lot of confusion. It's making you think it's not simple to deal with the situation, but it really is.
Okay.
Stay constructive. Stay constructive. Peace and blessings.
All righty. All right, my brother. Thank you for your phone call. Let's see here. Mr. Fuller, before we get into spiritualism, this is on page 264 of the revised expanded edition of your book. Let's speak to your book for a minute, how we can get it and what's the latest, what's going on. Can you get the book overseas now? All the information. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
But I've run into some complications with the overseas shipment. I understand there's even might be some complications with the Canadian shipments right along about now.
Wow.
So we have people working on the drawing board to get back to that. But here in what they call the continental, quote-unquote, United States, you can get it by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. Because that's the thing that my books are supposed to be presumably helping to do.
Yes, sir.
To produce justice. So you not just get rid of racism, but in the process of getting rid of racism, we want to produce a product called justice, which is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, regardless of who that person is, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in every area of activity, 24/7, all over the planet. But you can get if the books are addressed to individual persons of what they can do on a daily basis to try to bring this about, to try to end racism and at the same time produce a product called justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that every person gets the constructive help that he or she needs for the rest of the time that they're on this planet. I think that's a worthy goal for everybody on the planet.
Yes, sir.
To work toward. Go to producejustice.com and you can, the instructions are there for getting the basic book and the additional word guide.
Yeah, let me put that on the screen here.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. This is the word guide. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Right. And the word guide is also addressed to the individual person of what words to use, what words not to use, what words to ask questions about when other people use them.
Mm-hmm.
Because words are tools. People are motivated by words. When you use words, you go here, go there. These are words. People telling you to do something or not to do something. They do that with words. And then another word is why.
Why?
And so you want to know about what questions to ask about why and all like that. So it's a word guide. Words are tools. to motivate people to get things done.
All righty.
ProduceJustice.com. That's what you go to.
All right. All right, TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and you can call in now if you'd like. The phone lines are now empty. You can call in by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, Bobby, @gmail.com. And you can also do this. Talktainment is now on Facebook TV. All you have to do is log into facebook.com/Talktainment. You can now hear and see your favorite program. Go to Talktainment, or rather go to facebook.com/Talktainment, and you'll get to see me. And while you're there, I understand now that we have a like page up on like us on Facebook, and we will at points read some of the comments that we get. In particular, we have two people that have done that so far. Sherry Walker and Gregory Dixon has hit us up. At least I was given this note right here, so I'm not making it up. Right here. They like to hear what Mr. Fuller has to say and like it on Facebook. So that's going to facebook.com/Talktainment, and you'll be able to see that. Let's go to the Gmails here. Mr. Fuller, this was concerning what we talked about a few weeks ago, hidden figures. This question from Mr. Johnson, he wrote this. Question for Mr. Fuller. I recently read information from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control which proved to me to be very shocking. In the report, it stated that nearly 52.8 million illegal abortions were performed in the U.S. between 1970 and 2013, and statistically, African American females currently represented 30% of the total, with 420 abortions per 1,000 live births. If these numbers are true and or accurate, that would suggest that nearly 16 million willful acts of abortion were performed in the consent of African American females. Undoubtedly, the white supremacist allows and or facilitates these procedures, but like street shootings, are not these willful acts of population tailoring according to the counter-racist code? Should not African Americans stand by their work for this behavior? Your thoughts on this, Mr. Fuller, would be very much appreciated.
Well, as prisoners of war, if the prison masters say, lady, you're going to have to get rid of that baby, or you're not going to be able to support it, and if you're not able to support it, I mean, I'm going to penalize you for not being able to support that baby that you're going to have. Now, make up your mind, all right? Now, prison masters do that. So you have a dilemma there. You can go ahead and have the baby, and then somebody's going to be thrown in jail or penalized for having the baby, or the baby's going to die for lack of care, and then they're going to say, well, you neglected the baby, and now I'm going to punish you for doing that. I mean, in other words, I'm going to put you in a situation where you're between a rock and a hard place. Why? Because I'm team over you. That's why. I will determine, really what you are going to do with that baby that you are carrying in your womb. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I am your master. You and that baby are dependent on me because I am your prison master. You're a person of color. You're born in the prison called the system of white supremacy. So in a prison system, the prison master is not only in charge of everybody who is in the prison, but if a female has a baby in the prison master, logically speaking, is also in charge of the baby that was had in the prison. So, and the prison masters will decide whether that baby is going to get fed or not. Why? Because they feed the person who is carrying the baby. Mm-hmm. All right? See, you're helpless when you're born in prison. You have to do what your masters say. So I can't pass judgment on whether the female should have the baby or not have the baby. Why? Because I'm not in charge of the prison, Neely Buller. I'm a fellow prisoner myself. So I can't pass judgment on that. That's a call that she has to make.
Okay.
And that's the codified position. See, we have to keep remembering the system of white supremacy is a world prison system. And everyone who is classified as non-white is in that prison and has to answer to the white supremacists. That's what white supremacy means.
Worldwide.
Worldwide. I don't care where you are.
Okay. All righty. Let's do this. We're going to talk about spiritualism. This is on page 264 of the Revised Expanded Edition. In the middle, it says, and here's a question. It says, Mr. Fuller, what part does spiritualism, and you had that in quotations, play in what people do? Then you say, is spiritualism necessary in getting people to be as they should be and or getting people to do as they should do? Mr. Fuller, your response?
Well, the answer is on page 264, it is what is called spiritualism could and should be used to inspire or motivate all people to produce the will and the ability to end racism, to establish justice, and to establish correctness. Now, what is correctness? It's balance between people, creatures, and all things. Now, the result of what is called spiritualism could also be, and should also be, the practice of what is called righteousness or peace.
Yes.
And I put that in quotes.
Yes, you did.
Righteousness and or peace is also in quotes, is what would likely be produced through the practice of justice and correctness.
Righteousness and peace. Okay.
Right. In other words, a person will say, well, I'm a spiritual person. Well, your spirit is supposed to inspire you to produce a product. I mean, just walking around saying that you have spirit, and you have spirit, well, everything has spirit that has breath, all right? So that's a done deal anyway. But what is your spirit supposed to do, logically speaking? Well, according to compensatory counter-racist logic, it's supposed to help you to solve problems. Why? Because we have problems. We're put here in the universe, apparently, to solve problems, and the evidence is that we are put here to solve problems because we are given problems to solve, and we are given equipment to solve the problems. So our spirit is supposed to always be used to solve problems in the best possible manner. That's according to logic. You're given equipment. People are given equipment. They're given a spirit, and they're given hands and feet and eyes and ears, and the spirit is supposed to lead all of this first-class equipment to do what? To do something. And what is that something? Solve problems. Why would you conclude that the spirit is supposed to help you to solve problems?
Yes,
because you have problems. Whatever created people created problems for people to solve and gave them the equipment to solve it. And so that's the compensatory logic.
Okay. Now, you asked a question underneath that. You said this, is it correct for a person to have the so-called freedom, and you had that in quotations, to practice the religion, practice the religion of white supremacy, the race religion? If so, why? And if not, why not? That's at near the bottom of page 264. You see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer, well, the question is it correct for a person to have the so-called freedom to practice a religion of white supremacy? Okay? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Is it correct for a person to practice a religion of white supremacy? That's a religion. Supposed to have freedom of religion, we say. So a white supremacist will say, well, hey, I'm supposed to have the freedom to practice the religion of white supremacy. That's my religion. And so why are you opposing me? All right? So that's a logical question. And so a logical question, like all questions, call for an answer. So the answer, according to the code, the compensatory counter-racist code, is it is not correct for a person to have the so-called freedom to practice the religion of white supremacy. And the reason is the religion of white supremacy is designed to prevent the practice of all other religions. See, if we're going to have freedom of religion, you shouldn't have freedom of religion that's designed to prevent people from practicing their religion. In other words, you can practice your religion, but then you're going to stop somebody from practicing all the other religions. You can't have any other religion except the religion of white supremacy. So you shouldn't have that kind of freedom.
And they do this by the mistreatment of people.
Say that again?
They do this by the mistreatment of all other people.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. I mean, in other words, the religion, the white supremacists say if you're a person of color, you're not even supposed to have no religion that's going to be against the religion of white supremacy. Don't you come up with no idea of that. I mean, because we believe in mistreating people based on color, and we should have the freedom to practice that religion. Well, counter-racist science says no. The counter-racist religion, including the religion which I have, eclectic pluralism, say, oh no, I'm supposed to oppose you if that's what your religion requires you to do.
Even while you're in the prison system?
Well, I have to do it while I'm in the prison system as best I can do. Why? Because I can't do it anyplace else, because I'm not anyplace else.
Right.
Except in the prison of the system of white supremacy.
Yes.
So they allow me to even do what I'm doing. The white supremacists allow me to come on the internet and talk against the religion of white supremacy. And I guess they allow me to do it because they figure, well, it's not going to matter no way. I mean, let him talk.
They can shut this down anytime they want to.
Yes, they can. Yeah, and they know that. And why they don't, I mean, that's their reason. But they can shut me down anytime they want to, or any other non-white person. They got the muscle to do it.
Wow.
You know anything about the system of white supremacy, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only thing that can save me from that happening is that white people who are not white supremacists become stronger than the white people who are white supremacists.
You know, that brings the reason why you said at the beginning of the book, you said if you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you.
Only confuse you. And since we're in the seventh area of activity, religion, the white supremacists have caused religious confusion all over the planet.
All over the
planet. That's
planet.
why you have non-white people slaughtering each other. About what? About religion.
Wow.
And the white supremacists are sitting back laughing at all of the dark-skinned people who are fighting about religion. Hitting each other over the head with the Bible and other religious books.
Let's hold it right there. TalkTameItRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, the way it should be heard. This is what we want you to do. Don't go away. Stay tuned for the second hour of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. and your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Stay right there, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTameItRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTameItRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
All right. Good morning again, and welcome to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. If I could stop messing over my words. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio, and you are now in touch with the Compensatory Concept. Wow. With Mr. Fuller. And listen, tell the whole world, spread the word about Facebook.com/Talktainment. Yeah, spread the word. We are now on. You can see and hear us on Facebook.com/Talktainment. You can see me, and then you can hear Mr. Fuller. You can even hear yourself answering the questions, and I'll get to that call in just a second. As a matter of fact, there is a like button there, and James Robinson, thank you. Daryl Wesson, thank you for liking us. I think Tammy Qualls, thank you. Or Quell, thank you. And Joseph Carter, listening in, watching, yeah. That's Facebook.com/talk/Talktainment. That's it. That's true. Spread the word. They want you to tell the whole world. That's right. About Facebook.com/Talktainment. That's right. You can see and hear us right there. You can also call in, as a caller just did, by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby at gmail.com, and we will read that if we can. This is the second hour, the donate hour. So when you go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, even though it is not donate season, go ahead and hit that donate button, and you can put any amount of money you want into, particularly for this second hour. In this second hour, Mr. Fuller talked about, we were speaking about money, and then we're also speaking about religion, but he said that if you notice on the money that you have pictures of slave owners. Now, personally, I never really thought about that, but now I am thinking about it, and I do remember that on a coin they had Sacagawea, and I think on the $20 bill they're coming up with, what is it, Harriet Tubman, Ed? Or, yeah, Harriet Tubman. Yeah, Harriet Tubman. But he said that there are slave owners on it, and I really never thought about that. Still learning. And as I think about it, the few dollars that I do have in my pocket, yeah, they are pictures of the slave owners, which does increase the dominance of the white supremacists. But anyway, let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1, you're on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning. This is Jola Carter from Harlem.
Oh, okay, Joe. Thank you.
Yes. I have two questions. My first question is, what does it mean to be successful?
Okay, Mr. Fuller.
What does it mean to be
Successful.
effective?
No, successful.
Yeah, successful.
Successful?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, for non-white people, according to the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, success means no more white supremacy, and it's been replaced with the product of justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's the definition of success. Just one definition, according to compensatory counter-racist logic. That's success. No person, no non-white person is successful on this planet, according to compensatory counter-racist logic, until he or she has achieved a world in which all people practice justice and correctness. The world is dominated by that, rather than the system of white supremacy, which is what we have now. You cannot be a success in the system of white supremacy. That's not logical.
Okay.
You know, all the time you hear people say, well, you have some successful black people. Successful at doing what? In a prison system? Successful within a prison system? Well, you can say that, you know, if that's your criteria, but the criteria should be something much bigger than that, and that is get out of the prison system. And since you can't get out of it, you have to eliminate the prison system.
Okay.
Because you never should have been convicted anyway of having color.
All right.
That's not a crime. But the white supremacists said that it was a crime.
Okay. What's your second question?
Second question is kind of long. Is it appropriate for another black person to call another black person who's poor, have no job, not even trying to look for a job, even consider themselves like a street N or a street B if it's a female, to call these type of people like dusty N's or hood rat B's? Is that like appropriate to be for another black person to call another black person that? Or use those terms?
I couldn't hear the question.
Okay, could you slow down, Joe, just a little bit, so he could, Mr. Fuller can.
I was saying, is it appropriate for a non-white person or another black person to call another black person a dusty N or a hood rat B if that person doesn't work and doesn't have a job and want to be street people or whatever?
Okay, name calling and all that kind of stuff. Okay, Mr. Fuller?
No, you don't call people names. Never call anybody by a name or title except the name or title that the person wants to be called.
Mm-hmm.
That's an absolute. That's one of the basic 10 stops.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah.
Never engage in name calling. Always find out what the person wants to be called. Ask a person, what is your name? What name do you want me to call you? Or what title do you want me to call you by? The person might say, well, I want to be called King Jesus. Well, that's what the person is asking you to call them. So according to the code, you call the person that. I mean, simply because if you're going to address me, call me by the name I want to be called. That's what the person tells you.
Right. So
you're not looking for conflict. We're trying to minimize conflict between all people, really. Minimize conflict.
So it is inappropriate, then, to call a person out of their name.
All the time. Never call a person by any name or title. And even if the person changes their name every 2 or 3 weeks or every 2 or 3 hours, you just say, okay, Jim, you told me to call you Jim. He said, well, yeah, I told you to call me Jim yesterday. My name is Charles today. I got 2 names. And so I call my name Jim Charles, and today my name is Charles, and yesterday my name was Jim. So y'all call me Charles today. So you just call him Charles. So what? I mean, you don't lose anything by doing that.
Okay.
And you might gain something because one thing, you're getting along with people in a much better way.
Okay, so you're avoiding conflict.
Call them a name and then get a fight.
Yeah, so you're avoiding conflict.
You're avoiding conflict. You're minimizing confusion and conflict.
All right.
You're supposed to be trying to do that all the time.
Okay. Going back to the Brother Joe's question that he asked about success, and you always mentioned the Shawshank Redemption. Wasn't Red or even Andy Dufresne's character, weren't they successful in the prison system? Red could get you anything that you wanted. Andy worked the system to his advantage. So wouldn't you say that those were examples of success, being successful in the system?
I'm going to say again, people set their own criteria for success. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not the authority on what success is. I'm just making suggestions. The counter-racist code is all about making suggestions that are supposed to be designed to do what? Solve the major problem. And so the assumption is the major problem is what? The system of white supremacy. That's the assumption, according to what I have written. Other people will say, well, no, we got a problem much bigger than that. Okay, well, then they can work on that problem. But in the books that I have written, the textbook for victims of white supremacy, the major problem among the people of this planet, the biggest problem, the problem that gets in the way of everything, is the system of white supremacy, which means mistreating people based on color. That's the biggest problem. You can't solve any other problem without solving that problem. So therefore, logically speaking, you would say, thinking about that, well, then success must mean replacing the system of white supremacy with a system that is much better than the system of white supremacy. Would that be the definition of success? And the suggestion that I make, based on logic, is the answer is yes.
Okay.
You set that criteria. But otherwise, I mean, you can say success is being able to catch the next bus on time. I mean, all right, and then consider that your life success. I caught the bus to San Francisco, and I caught it on time, and there's no other success. I've been successful at that. That's the end. I don't have to do nothing else. Well, if that's the way you want to look at it that way. But in counter-racist science, success means you eliminated racism and replaced it with a system of justice and correctness and peace.
And this is what you're trying to do?
Yes,
okay.
and anything short of that is not successful.
So even though you're trying to do it, well, okay, then you're not successful, but you're trying to be successful.
You're trying to be successful.
Okay.
Because the definition that you have set for success is replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice. And everything else is supposed to be just leading into that.
Okay.
I mean, black talk radio, what we're doing right now. I mean, are we successful in doing this? Well, it comes down to what is it we are ultimately trying to do.
Ultimately. That's a good word.
See, that's the key word. Your ultimate. What is the ultimate thing that you're trying to do? And you're trying to make the world the type of place that it should have been in the first place.
In the first place, yes.
Right. And that's a big job.
Woo. You're not kidding. Speaking about big jobs, talktainmentradio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, which is our topic today, and, of course, politics. Now, here are several shows that I'd like to share with you. We have one called Real Men. We have one called Your Time, and then Front Street. All these shows are exclusive to Talktainment Radio, so all you have to do is go to the talktainmentradio.com homepage. You click on the programs for the scheduled times. Now, talktainmentradio.com, that's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby. I'm the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We are speaking of in the seventh area of people activity, which is religion, but you may call in with any questions or comments by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Also this, and they told me to say this, spread the word. Tell the whole world about Facebook.com/Talktainment. We are on live, and you can hear us, and you can also see us. Spread the word. Tell everybody so they can hear what Mr. Fuller has to say. You can even hear yourself do that. So go to Facebook.com/Talktainment, and there we go. And also, while you're there, there's a like button that's been established. And there are a few people that did that. Sherry Walker, Gregory Dixon, Daryl Wesson, James Robinson, Tammy Quell, and Joe Carter. I believe he was just on from New York. They hit the like button, and you can do so too by going to Facebook and see like us on Facebook. That's what it says right there, and we will read even your comments. That's all from TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1. Okay, line number 1, you are on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Okay, Mr. Fuller. I was reading on the internet where in Chicago there's already been 614 murders, and the year's only halfway over with. So I guess here's my question. Why do we as black men, why do we kill each other the way that we do?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Well, we're all prisoners of war. And from what little bit I've learned about many prisons, they have prisoners who are doing nothing because they don't know what else to do, but scheming of ways to harm other prisoners. They're angry about everything. One thing being in prison. So the whole world is a prison for non-white people. So when you have particularly black males who are told practically from birth that they can never be men, then they say, well, I'm going to try to prove that I'm a man some kind of way. So we find ways, and we'll shop around for ways to try to prove that we're men, flexing our muscles and lifting weights and all like that. And we find that nobody pays any attention to any of that. And so then we start picking fights. And we pick fights with whomever happens to be around us that we think is weak enough to pick a fight with. And that's all it is. And that will continue as long as you have the system of white supremacy in place and you have people that don't understand that they are in the system of white supremacy.
Yes.
And so the only thing you can do is just tell people by asking questions, why are you doing this? You know what I mean? And let them answer their own questions. And let them answer. Don't help people with the answer. You're killing people. You're walking around with 2 or 3 guns on you. You got a couple in your belt, and you got one strapped around your leg. And you're walking around looking for somebody to shoot.
Yeah.
And you're picking your people very carefully. We notice that about how you're going to shoot, who you're going to shoot. You're going to shoot people that look like you. All right. Now, why are you doing that?
Yes, yes.
All right. You answer the question why you are doing this. I'm not going to answer because I don't know why. I got my ideas about why, but I can't say why. Without getting an argument or something. So you can explain your reason.
Yeah.
I say that anybody who kills anybody, anywhere on the planet, everybody should know who did it and why.
Stand by your work.
Yes, stand by your work. In other words, you choose to do this. If black people in Chicago are killing, are setting out with the mission, this is your mission. This is the one thing that you are really, serious about doing, more serious about doing this than anything else, and that's killing some other black person, down the block or around the corner from you. As soon as you possibly can do it, then all I can say is ask yourself why you are doing it and what you expect to get out of it. And whatever, manhood or whatever, you can answer the question better than anybody.
Yeah, because you're doing it.
Yes. But what I can say, according to the code, if you do it, you should be able to tell the whole world you did it and why you did it. Why? Because logically speaking, if you do it and run, if you're doing it to prove that you're a man, meaning you can manage any kind of situation that you're in. That's what man means.
Okay.
I can manage.
Okay.
Give me the situation, I can handle it.
Okay.
Okay. If you can handle killing 4 or 5 people in front of a liquor store or something like that, then you should be able to answer the question, now, after you have done this, what are you going to do? Well, the record kind of shows that you ran. So that raises a question. Who are you running from? You killed 2 or 3 people, and you ran after you did it.
Yeah, you said you're a man.
Yeah. Now, if you're proving that you're a man means, hey, I can handle any situation, which means I will kill people, and I'll kill whoever doesn't like it. I don't care who you said. I can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing I can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
That's your whole purpose for the tattoos and everything. You can handle any situation that you're in. There's no situation that you can't handle. Man means manage.
Wow.
And in the system of white supremacy, the most horrendous managers that the world has ever seen so far are the white supremacists.
The white supremacists. All
so
right.
all you black people out here who are doing all this managing, proving that you're a man, can you prove that to the white supremacists?
Wow. Good question. We on line number 2? Okay. Line number 2, you're on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Good evening, gentlemen. Well, good morning.
Good morning. Mm-hmm.
Actually, the question is directed towards you, Mr. Bobby, and well, to you or either.
Okay. I tell you what. Let me do this. If you want to
wait, it's about the program.
Oh.
So
okay.
It's not personal. It's not a personal question.
All right.
It's for either for you or mainly for the program director.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I've noticed that quite a few people call in with quite a bit of VGQ. And my question is, if the show's about people calling in to ask questions, to get some understanding from Mr. Fuller, why do your radio show or you, who's ever in charge, allow that to happen? And then I have another part to the question. I'll wait till you deal with that one first.
Okay. Right? Let me say this unofficially. Since this is Mr. Fuller's show, we don't know what the callers are going to call in and say. And if they make a comment, which we have determined or know that it is VGQ, then that is allowed, for them to do that. And if Mr. Fuller wants to make a comment, on that, they can, he can. We do invite people to call and to comment, even though people want to hear Mr. Fuller, but they also want to hear what Mr. Fuller has to say, even if the comment is personal to that particular person. That's under VGQ, guaranteed victims' right. They can do that. So that's why it is allowed.
Okay. Well,
even though we are going a little longer, what we're trying not to do is let somebody, let's say speak for 10 or 15 minutes, because that would take away from the show. So, and I do sometimes allow them to go over the 2-minute mark, just like I'm allowing you to do that, because I feel that your question is important and should be answered. We don't want to confuse you, but if you keep listening, to the program, then chances are that Mr. Fuller will say something that will help straighten out the confusion, because that's one thing that we do not want to do. We're trying to keep up with technology. This is the way that it is. I mean, technology is the coming thing, and if you're going to be relevant, then you have to do that. And Facebook is something that is relevant, along with the other social medias that we have. All righty. Anyway,
well, thanks for trying to unconfuse me.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay, brother. All right.
Anyway, thanks.
Thank you so much for your call.
And thank you, Mr. Fuller, for all that you're doing for the.
All righty. Thank you. Yes, sir. All righty. Let's go on here. Again, we're speaking of religion, but again, you can call in 1-877-932-9766 is the number. Gmail me. All comments at 7 Mr. Bobby, the numeral 7 Mr. Bobby, BOBBY at gmail.com, and Facebook.com/talktainment. You can see us. How about that? Or see me anyway, not Mr. Fuller. Okay, we're speaking on religion, and one question that you had, Mr. Fuller, on page 265, it's at the very top. It says, when asked to say something about, quote, religious conflict, you said, say one or more of the following. And you can select one of those things that you written down here on page 265.
Well, one of the first things there is when you're asked to say something about religious conflict, you can say, as long as the religion of white supremacy exists, religious conflicts are guaranteed to continue. And I think, and there's several other statements that you can make after that, but I think that's a very important statement, that as long as the religion of white supremacy exists, religious conflicts are guaranteed to continue. Why? Why did I say that? Because the white supremacists want religious conflicts to continue. As long as they will dominate all of the non-white people who are practicing whatever religion that they are practicing. And so they want the non-white people to keep fighting about religion. Different churches, different mosques, different synagogues or whatever, different temples, whatnot, just different ways of thinking about his or her religion on an individual basis, on a collective basis of all of the black, brown, red, and yellow people on the planet. The white supremacists want them to continue to argue about and fight about and fall out, blow up about whatever their religions are, with the white supremacists sitting back and gaining from all of these conflicts. They get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger every time non-white people engage in religious conflicts among each other. They just go around tearing up everything, among themselves. They're not harming the white supremacists at all. The white supremacists sitting back laughing at all of them. This is why this is very important to remember. When you get into a religious conflict, if you're a person of color with another person of color about religion, you are helping to strengthen the system of white supremacy, whether you believe it or not.
Wow. TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on WGRN 94.1. The podcasts are available. All you have to do is download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. More of your phone calls and more of your Gmails. Alrighty, welcome back to TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go, and all you have to do is download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That is radio the way it should be heard. I'm Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and our topic is today the seventh area of people activity, which is religion, and we've been trying to have Mr. Fuller explain that. But you can call in for your questions for that or any other subject that you want to discuss, and Mr. Fuller will answer your questions. All you have to do is call 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com, and I will try to read that. Now, listen, this is important because technology is all over the place. We all have to have it. Most of us have cell phones. Come on, we do. We are now broadcasting live on Facebook.com/Talktainment. That's right. That's Facebook.com/Talktainment. It's just a way of technology. You can go there. You can see, and now you can hear us, or hear me anyway. Do the show live. That's live. And there's also a like page you can go to. Now, I'm reading this. This is what they told me to say it, and I'm going to say it. Tell the world. They want you. You can be a part of the show by telling the world and spreading the word that we're on Facebook TV about this program. That's going to Facebook.com/Talktainment. And we will read some of your names, and I'm going to do that before we go to the calls. Marino Watts, thank you. Thank you for your shout. Thank you. Dwayne Anderson, Jeff Bell. Let's see here. Sherry Walker, Gregory Dixon, James Robinson, Daryl Wesson. Thank you, Daryl. Tammy Qualls, and Joe Carter from New York. And there are many, many more, as I'm being told, even as we're on live. You are really hitting it up. You're listening to Mr. Fuller. You're hitting it up, and thank you for doing that. Okay, that's going to Facebook.com/Talktainment. Mr. Fuller, while we have you on, let's do this and get this out the way first, because this is very important. listen, callers, this is very important, about Mr. Fuller's book. Mr. Fuller, we normally don't do it at this time, but we're going to do it at this time. I'm holding your book up on the screen. Matter of fact, I'm holding both books up so that people can see. Could you speak just a little bit about your books, how we can get them, and any latest information about that?
Well, that title called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, briefly, it means you're united, or you should be united, in what your goal is, which is to produce a product called justice, and that will also produce a product called correctness, which means balance between all the things that the individual interacts with, the air, the clouds, walking, talking, all interactions of every type between people, creatures, and things. And you're supposed to be united so that you get the most constructive result when you interact with people, creatures, and things. But you're independent. Put that in parentheses. You're independent, meaning you're an individual person. I could have used the word individual in how you go about doing it, and when and where. And all of that should be in a compensatory fashion, meaning you compensate
yes,
for what is not there. And you should codify what you do. Everything that you do should be codified, meaning what? You got a set way of doing it, that every time you do it, it gets the most constructive result.
Yes.
That's in everything that you say and everything that you do. It should be codified. That's what that code means. And then the code should be a system where you have everything that you think, say, and do to comprise a system that applies to economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. There's certain things that you do and certain things you don't do. That's what a system is.
Yes, sir.
That's what a codified system is. And it's all a concept now until you actually do it. Concept just means it's in your mind. And that's how I have presented it. This is just all in my mind. This is really not what's going on. I'm not even doing all the things that I should be doing, because if I was doing all the things that I should be doing and it was successful, then we wouldn't be having any of these problems that we're talking about. So it's just a concept of how to solve the problem.
Yes, sir.
So I call it a compensatory counter-racist code, too. You have to have a code for getting rid of racism. And it's addressed to the individual person. That's the main thing I want to emphasize. Both of the textbook volumes are addressed to the individual persons. Suggestions about what to do and what not to do, what to say and what not to say, each and every day as you go about doing whatever you do.
Yes, sir.
And you can get the basic book and the additional word guide
right here
by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com.
Okay. All righty. All right, let's go to the phone lines. What line are we on? Line number 1? Okay, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
I was wondering, do you think now that technology is more available to almost everybody, do you think the deception of the white supremacy is getting more exposed now, or you think people are getting more distracted with technology?
Mr. Fuller?
Do I think that the system of white supremacy is getting more exposure? Is that what the question is?
People are more distracted.
Exposure or distraction. Okay.
Wait a minute. What's that last part?
Go ahead, caller.
Do you think people are getting more? Do you think white supremacy are getting more exposed now, or people are getting more distracted due to the availability of technology?
Okay.
Oh, the white supremacists are more successful at spreading their confusion, which is what they always do, than people being aware that they are being dominated by the system of white supremacy. The white supremacists are still doing that. All the evidence shows that. And they are becoming more and more skilled at confusing the non-white people.
Even using technology.
Yes, definitely. They're using the technology to do that. And they are keeping black people occupied with going around in circles doing a whole lot of nothing that goes nowhere.
Now, the caller was saying, does that serve as a distraction? Or is that part of their tactic with this technology, whatever they're doing, to distract us from focusing in on what we're supposed to be focusing in on?
Yes, the white supremacists do this in all 9 areas of activity all of the time.
Okay.
See, in other words, the way to confuse people is to lead them to have questions with no answers. That's what confusion is. Lots of questions with no answers. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? What are those people doing over there? Why are they doing it? And all like that.
I see.
Well, in all the areas of activity, the white supremacists say, keep those dark-skinned people confused.
So,
and that way, confusion brings on what? Frustration.
So
frustration brings on conflict. All right?
So they allow...
So the conflict means that the non-white people will lash out at each other. Since you just have mass confusion. The mind can't stand confusion.
Yes, sir. So they allow the technology to come in, but then they use what they've allowed to further confuse you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got it. Okay. Alrighty. Line number 2? Okay. Line number 2, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby.
Good morning.
I have a question, Mr. Fuller. How can people improve their self-esteem?
Oh, you improve your self-esteem by doing things that work. This is what self-esteem comes from. Doing things that work, and work in a comfortable, fashion. In other words, you get comfort from it. And your self-esteem automatically is being built on you doing things and saying things that work for you. That's what self-esteem is. Doesn't work against you. Your self-esteem starts disappearing when you're doing things that are working against you. It just starts slowly easing away from you so that you don't have any left. But all so-called self-esteem comes from you know what to do, you know how to solve problems. See, basically that's it, problem solving. And that's where self-esteem comes from. When you get to the place you have a whole lot of problems, you don't know how to solve them, your self-esteem goes, and then you just start doing any kind of old thing. Just start lashing out at anything because you're frustrated. Confusion brings about frustration. Frustration brings about all kinds of chaos. And the chaos brings about all kinds of conflict if you're around other people. Because you'll just lash out at everybody and then eventually lash out against yourself. What you're doing when you really just lash out at anybody and everybody with no particular reason for doing so, which is what black people do a lot of. That's why we are very toxic when we're around each other. We're frustrated, we're confused, we're angry, and we're going to take it out on somebody. We don't want to keep just hitting ourselves upside the head all day long, so we hit somebody else upside the head. Why? Because they look like us. And so since we're the ones that are confused, we want to lash out at anything that looks like the person that's confused.
Yes, sir.
So the person that looks like me is me. So since I'm not looking in a mirror all day long, and I'm angry with myself because I can't figure out what to do with myself, so I will pick out somebody that looks like me. This is the way it works. And I will lash out at that person. Might even kill them.
Wow.
What you looking at me for? Oh, you see my weaknesses. You see I'm confused. You see that I don't know what I'm doing. You think that I'm not a man. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. That's what I'll do with you. That'll take care of that. Meaning, I'm shooting myself. Because when I see them, I see myself. Because they are weak also. And they, black people expose each other's weaknesses and then get mad about it.
And then don't stand...
That is the reason we slaughter each other.
And then don't stand behind the work. Wow.
Right.
Talktainment is now on Facebook TV. All you have to do is log into facebook.com/talktainment. You can now hear and see your favorite program. Go to facebook.com/talktainment. And that's with Mr. Neely. You can see the compensatory concept doing it live. While you're there, hit that like button, and I will call out some of your names, such as, again, Sherry Walker, Greg Dixon, thank you, Marino Watts, Dwayne Anderson, Jeff Bell, let's see, Jamie Robinson, Daryl Wesson, Tammy Quall, and Joe Carter are some of the names that hit that like button. We're going to fix it so that you can have some comments on there. But tell the world and then spread the word about talktainment.com on Facebook.com//talktainment. You can see and hear the program is what they want me to tell us. And I understand we're still making adjustments to it, and it's very good. Let's go. Phone lines. Is that a call or okay? Okay, caller. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead. Caller. Caller once, twice. What line? Line 1. Okay, line 1. You're on.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, I had a question for Mr. Fuller.
Yeah. Go ahead.
First, I had a comment. Thanks, Mr. Fuller. You are a master teacher for the black race, so I appreciate you. But my question is, if we, during the area of religion, if the religion of white supremacy practice killing us and they don't kill themselves, would it be beneficial for us to kill one of them and then have to kill ourselves? And I'll hold for the answer.
Whoa. Mr. Fuller?
Oh, well, that's in answer to the question, when you start talking about killing, I'm going to make this very clear. That comes mostly under the war section. And I don't talk about the war section, generally speaking, unless I have a lot of time, and I don't have that kind of time to do that on the air. In fact, I've thought about this. When I do get to the war section, how am I going to handle that? Well, basically, I'll handle that, and I'm going to say this now. I'm going to handle that by saying you actually have to go to the book itself.
Okay.
Right. To go to the war and counter-war section. Racism is war. We're already in a war, and the racists are already killing massive numbers of non-white people every day. They deliberately do this. That's what war is. It's not but one war, and that is the war between those who believe in white supremacy and those who don't. That's what it really is all about. All other so-called wars are battles or fights within that war. You might call them small wars. But the war is the war between those who believe in white supremacy and those who don't. That's the war that dominates the planet. Now, in the war section, under the ninth area of activity, war, counter-war, it goes into detail about the only way that non-white people should respond to that in a way of actually using counter-violence as individual persons against the white supremacists. And that's spelled out. All of the qualifications for doing that. And they're pretty harsh, but they are the ones I've come to the conclusion that they're the only ones that can be activated with success if you're going to use counter-war, meaning counter-violence, against the warriors, which is the white supremacists. But I spell it out in detail in the ninth area of activity in the book. I do not like to talk about it on the air for the simple reason that that will add to what? Confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have any confusion when you start talking about people killing people. You want to be very specific about what you're talking about, because it can be confused. Somebody can be misled. Somebody can get the incorrect message. So you don't advocate anything in the way of killing people without going into very specific details about your qualifications for doing so, according to what? Logic, and according to the laws of justice.
Yes.
You want to be very specific about that and not just say things off the top of your head. And so, therefore, I don't like to go into any details about that. And the code prohibits me from going into details about that, other than the details that are spelled out in the 9th area of activity of the compensatory counter-racist code book.
Okay, there you have it. Let me say this. Thank you, caller. Let me say this. Let's see. Oh, yeah, turn it around here. Rosalind Smothers. Let's see. Kim Joshua Jones. Okay, and Robert Smothers III. They hit us up on the like page. This is what you do when you go to facebook.com/talktainment. The instructions are to click the Facebook icon in the lower level, insert the name of the subject matter and the date of the show, and then click it on, and you're there. You're clear there. So again, go to facebook.com/talktainment, and we're on. We're on. Spread the word. Tell the world about facebook.com/talktainment, and there you'll find this show, the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I'm your co-host, Mr. Bobby. 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. Going to the Gmails, Mr. Fuller, this comes from a brother, I believe, out in California. Anyway, says this, why are the juvenile systems in Los Angeles only filled with thousands of non-white children? It is so obvious, but no one speaks on it. Why? Where do the white kids go? No police, no probation officers, parents, judges, lawyers, newspaper, TV. No one notices. People make some noise, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, thank you. Please give us some wisdom on this. Why don't they just kill us? Are we really that silly?
Well, you asked a number of questions there. I don't know. I'm not familiar with what's going on in Los Angeles, but I do know this. The white supremacists do everything to strengthen the system of white supremacy. So that means that if in the interest of non-justice, which is what they do not believe in justice. They believe in non-justice. They believe in mistreating people willfully and deliberately because people have color. So therefore, naturally, that means they're going to set everything up so that a person who has color in his or her skin is not going to benefit in a constructive manner from any structure. And the person is going to be harmed, either directly or indirectly, even when it looks like they're not going to be harmed. It's all about doing harm to non-white people. So anything that they do in the legal system, in the area of law, is going to apply that way. Do harm to non-white people. Don't do harm to people who are classified as white. It's just that simple. That's what white supremacy means. Do harm to people classified as non-white. Don't do harm to people classified as white, generally speaking. And the only reason a white supremacist would do harm to a white person is because that white person is not doing the job of doing harm to non-white people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way they operate.
Yes. Let me ask this, Mr. Fuller. Well, then, is there a difference between how Freddie Gray, the gentleman that was killed in Baltimore, Baltimore, Maryland, and thrown in the police paddy wagon, as opposed to Dylan Roof, who murdered those 9 people down in South Carolina? I saw on the TV where he had a vest on and was put into an automobile and driven off. And I think they stopped at some place and got a hamburger. Is this what you're talking about? The difference of how they treat people?
I'm going to say it again. The system of white supremacy, in simple terms and in truthful terms, is set up for the purpose of doing harm in all areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, do harm to everybody who is black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige, anybody who's classified as non-white. Do harm to that person.
So you expected
Find some way to do harm to that person.
So you expected Freddie Gray, because he was not white, to be harmed in some kind of way.
Absolutely. That's what the system of racism is for.
Yes.
If the system of racism wasn't set up to do harm, there would be no need for the system of racism.
True that.
Racism means doing harm. Doing harm to whom? Doing harm to anybody who has color in his or her skin.
Mistreatment.
Find a way. If you don't have a way to do harm to them, find a way to do harm. That's what it's for. And in order to get what out of it? Fun, glory, and material comfort.
Wow.
That's it. Just find a way to do harm to them. And don't do harm, if you can avoid it, to anybody who is white in the system of white supremacy.
Right. And
do harm to anybody who's non-white. Don't do harm to anybody who's white.
Wow.
That's what white supremacy means.
Okay.
Just that simple.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to leave it there, Mr. Fuller. Hey, but thank you for all those that got on Facebook, for all those listening, hearing and listening, seeing us. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is Talktainment Radio, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. We will try to do better next week, and we'll see you next week. All right. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.